My global issue is the effect on the individual psyche of living under patriarchal oppression, specifically the effects on the mental health of an individual and the thoughts and feelings that oppression gives rise to, and how the stereotypical images of women are harmful. Chopin spoke about the importance of describing human existence, stripped of the veil that society has draped it in. This is what she shows in The Story of an Hour, The Storm, and At the Cadian Bull, to name but a few of her short stories that focus on this global issue. The Story of an Hour is an angry cry about the lack of freedom that married women enjoyed in the 19th century and the effect on Louise's psyche. In this story, Louise Mallard is brought the news that her husband has died in a railroad disaster. Up until the final sentence, the reader is given insights into Mrs. Mallard's responses. Everything is seen from her point of view, crafted via the pronouns her and she. Chopin's narrative of the internal events of the story is crafted through Louise's emotions. The same is true in The Storm and Cadian Bull, where we see the effect on women's minds of living under patriarchal oppression. The story is short but powerful, indicative of much of the feminist literature at the time, and the structure of this story reflects the mental impact on Louise. Chopin uses similar techniques in her other works, where short paragraphs reflect the inner turmoil of the woman. Many paragraphs here, as in The Storm, are just 2 to 3 sentences, creating an impressionistic style to show the patterns of thought and Louise's emotional response. The story covers a dense, short period of time, an hour, and a short period of mental disintegration. Form reflects content. The short sentence, "and she opened and spread her arms out to them in welcome," refers to the years she ironically feels that will belong to her absolutely. The personification in belong here and procession later in the paragraph, Polly Cinderton, imagery of freedom and welcome, all show the new happy mental state Louise has gained. The situational irony, a technique also used in Storm and Cadian Bull, is powerful as Chopin seems to say that the only freedom women truly gain is in death. The tone reflects Louise's response to her newfound freedom. She cherishes it, seen in the repetition of words that connote freedom and life, such as free, live, and feverish triumph. Chopin conveys Louise will finally be in charge of her own life, something she shows Calixte is fleetingly in The Storm. Chopin uses diction precisely to show the effect on Louise's mind. The oxymoronic monstrous joy reflects the terrible pleasure she feels at the news of her husband's death. She keeps her monstrous feelings in, showing the mental effect of patriarchal power. This is also shown in Storm, where Clarisse was charmed to hear her husband would stay in Biloxi, more than willing to forego their intimate conjugal life for a time. Polly Cinderton adds drama to the description of Mr. Mallard's dead face. Louise imagines it fixed and grey and dead, and this image, coupled with the monosyllabic words, the colour grey that connotes lack of life and the plosive Ds in dead, show her understanding that she will miss him. He, like his hands, was kind and tender. She knows she will weep, a motif that repeats throughout this story. She cries at the news of her husband being dead, the imagined funeral, and then stops when she imagines new life, freedom without him. She is then ironically happy at the news of his death. Repetition is a technique that Chopin uses in Storm and Cadian Bull to emphasize the mental health of Clarisse and Calixte and the thoughts and feelings that freedom from oppression gives rise to in them. The word open is used repeatedly as a metaphor for freedom in the whole story, not just in this extract. In the beginning, it shows possibility and a lack of restrictions. One door closes and a window opens. In this extract, it is repeated 3 times to show how Louise keeps herself locked away in her room to cherish her newfound feelings of freedom from repression. She drinks in the very elixir of life through that open window, symbolically depicting her newfound life. Elixir suggests life is now magical, and she will be allowed a prolonged life. Ironically, it's when she turns away from the window and opens the door that she loses her freedom. Metaphors and images of freedom weave their way through Storm and Cadian Bull. Situational irony, a technique Chopin often uses, is used again in her prayer that life will be long, and this is juxtaposed with her previous mental state that she used to shudder at the thought, ironically only having minutes to live as she thinks it. The use of juxtaposition helps to show the difference in her life before and after the news that her patriarch is dead, and in the parallel sentences, life might be long. Antithetically, she prays and shudders in her past and present mindsets. The use of the present participle here shows she is static, yet locked in the present with no future. The look that makes him look again was a 2012 advert for Special K in their Indian campaign featuring Pradhayani Savarthaman. It suggests to a target audience solely of women that if you buy Special K, you will become instantly attractive to men. This advert attempts to show a woman casting off patriarchal oppression and showing defiantly who she is, and yet, in a twist, literally, with her body, she offers herself as an object to the voyeuristic view of the man behind her and the audience. The advert actually shows that although an individual may feel that they are freed from the shackles of patriarchy, they never escape when the media objectifies them. The same is true of the advertising space available and Dare to Wear Red campaigns. In terms of the composition of the persuasive The Look, we see an attractive Indian woman in a sari dominating the advert. The visual F-path draws our eye to the woman, the slogan, and then down to the cereal box. It is a two-column visual, with the woman taking the whole of the left column and then the slogan, man and box of cereal, the right. The red wave at the bottom visually connects the woman to the cereal. In the Dare to Wear Red advert, her widespread dress is the connecting visual path. In Look, the woman is the visual foreground focal point, dressed in a traditional sari, standing in a hand-on-hip stance, while the smaller man, relegated to the background, reclines passively, flip-flopped looking on voyeuristically, remote control in hand at the woman in his life. She is seductively clothed in the iconic Kellogg's red with gold trim, which adds a sense that she is precious and luxurious in Indian wedding colours. The global issue and the effect on a woman's psyche is clear, as she conforms to a man's view that she must be thin, and can only be looked at appreciatively when she is thin. Her loose hair swirls sensuously around her shoulders, as in the Dare and Space campaigns. She and they are young, attractive, and gaze in a defiant, direct gaze at the female audience, as if to say, look what happens when I eat Special K. The POV is that if you eat it, then you will look like her too. Special K tries to turn the stereotype on its head, yet the reality is that the visual image, colour psychology and composition actually portray a woman who is told she has to be thinner for men to want to look at her. In the Space Available campaign, we see another typical subjugated female advertisement. The woman here wears the synonymous Kellogg's red in a tank top with short denim skirt and silver sandals, a little glass slipper-esque on her feet, with the words advertising space available next to her in the void her skinniness has created. Clearly her mental health depends on her weight. Her face is set in a smirking, lusty gaze that exudes sex appeal, while her cocked head invites us to join her in the Special K challenge. The model's body positioning, shoulders pushed back and her back slightly arched, screams sexual confidence, suggesting that maybe if we join her, we will also gain confidence with our body and ourselves. Again, the woman is objectified, and the global issue's relevance is clear. The copy of the slogan, "The look that makes him look again," was crafted to show a woman subverting traditional patriarchal roles. The 7 words are emphatic. The third-person present verb makes adds a commanding tone and insinuates she is in control, her psyche strong and free. The bandwagon effect ensures that we are convinced that we can be her. The playful and lyrical repetition of looks is meant to show she has the power, but ironically she turns herself into the object. Him is identifiable as the passive reclining man in the chair, in beige, blending into the white space against her redness. The soft sell is that the man in your life will find you attractive once you are thinner. The colour psychology cannot be ignored. The sensuous, iconic Kellogg's Scarlet is depicted in a serif style that mimics the Kellogg's font in a feminine, modern, stylised way. A woman should be thin and curvy, like the font. Dare to Wear Red, 4 emphatic words, commands with the directive dare and plays with a woman's confidence. Kellogg's goads the woman into being thinner, drawing on every body image insecurity she has. In the Space Available advert, the copy, advertising space available, glorifies the model's thinness. She takes up only 1/6 of the space, suggesting a woman should not take up much space in the world. The effect on a woman's psyche is clear, as she smiles at how little space she takes up. Chopin shows Louise's mental health in The Story of an Hour, and her thoughts and feelings of happiness at her husband's death, when she is freed from patriarchal oppressive rule. The look that makes you look again shows a woman's thoughts and feelings are only happy if she is thin, negating the advert's concept that she is a free individual. All advertising conventions work together to pick away at a woman's mental health, and the effect on the individual psyche of living under patriarchal oppression is clear.
Thank you. Let me ask you, if the Special K advert, can you discuss any other ways that your global issue has been crafted through advertising conventions?
I didn't have time in my oral to expand on the tone of the text, I guess. It exudes confidence, but although Special K wanted to depict a strong, confident woman, they show that a woman can only do this when she's thin, and that a man won't look at her as an attractive woman if she's overweight. So for me, the tone is actually one of oppression, and I see a woman who's happy she's made the man in her life happy. I don't want to see a man in the advert, or the patriarchy continues, I believe. I think that the USP also develops my global issue. That hard sell that the cereal is 98% fat-free. It's in a large white font, bottom left corner of the advert, highlighted against a large red shield. And the sell is that if you eat Special K, you will get thinner. Not that you're eating actually anything that's good for you. And again, the woman's facial expressions of happiness at her thinness show the effect on an individual psyche.
What about the Chopin extract?
Oh, well, the concept of how she was not unhappy, as her husband never looked save with love upon her, but was not really happy either, as she wasn't living her life for herself, but one that was controlled for a man. That line, no powerful will bending hers, is one that resonates, and that concept of blind persistence that Chopin states, personifying persistence as blind, which was the way Louise was living, as one blind. So I think it was the dictional choices that are so specific and so full of symbolism that the global issue was so obvious in that text.
What made you pick the extract and advert that you did?
Well, I became really interested during the course at the idea of the effect on an individual when they live under any kind of oppression. And so as we looked at Albie and Carol Ann Duffy, I realised that I was most interested in the effect of patriarchal oppression on a woman. I looked in my learner portfolio at how women were made to feel as though they were not living a full life and how this impacted them. I thought that Chopin was a clear choice, as she was a leader in feminist literature, and the message was so obvious to me. That non-literary text type that I looked at proved more of a challenge though, because I initially looked at my global issue in terms of adverts of the 1950s, but it soon became clear to me that I was most interested by more modern adverts that said they turned their backs on such images, but they were actually still endorsing them. I realized that they were selling products based on a woman's fear of not being attractive to men. And so this helped me to formulate my global issue, the effect on the woman's, on the individual psyche of living under patriarchal oppression, and, well, I suppose specifically the effects on the mental health of an individual and the thoughts and feelings that oppression gives rise to, and how I really felt that these stereotypical images of women were so harmful to a woman's individual psyche. I guess if I have to reach some kind of conclusion to that question that you asked me, I felt that those two texts showed the harm that comes to women when they live their lives for someone other than themselves, directly and indirectly through the two texts. That global issue that I was looking at felt relevant when I brought it to those particular issues.
And what are the similarities and differences between the ways the global issue was dealt with in both works?
Oh, well, the global issue was dealt with very differently in the two texts, and to start off with, I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to make it work. In Chopin, it was an obvious focus, whereas in the Special K advert, it was really an unintentional byproduct of the advert. Chopin was looking at the way in which women were oppressed by men, and her story shows that moment when a woman realizes through the death of her husband that she can live a life for herself. Ironically, she only lives for an hour and then dies. in every way when he walks through the door and she sees her life is over. Special K didn't intend for their advert to have the meaning it did, but it's significant that they changed their campaign in 2017 to actually empower women and not promote the stereotype of needing to look a certain way to be attractive to men. To say that a woman needs to make a man look at her because she's thinner is so harmful to a woman's psyche.
Thank you.